you want to go ahead?
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Elise Miller, and I'm a student recruitment officer from the University of Toronto, Scarborough. I work with our school groups, and I also work with a lot of our on-campus or online events. And I'm happy to be here with you today. I've been a recruiter for quite a long time, but my daughter just went through the process last year in grade 12, and she just started university this September. So I know what you're all going through, and I'm happy that you're here today. Thank you. Anne?
Thanks, Elise. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session. My name is Anne Rose. I'm the Associate Director of University Student Recruitment here at U of T. I'm a proud alumna. I studied arts and science, political science and history a gazillion years ago on the St. George campus and a member of Innis College. I'm also a parent who has 3 adult children now who went through the application process for university as well as college. So I sort of know how you all feel with respect to that process. And I've been working in student recruitment. Well, I've been at U of T all my career, so I have lots of experience and lots of advice that I'm happy to share. And I'll pass it over to our friend, Jeff.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Trapp. I'm the Associate Director, Recruitment and Admissions at Rotman Commerce. Rotman Commerce is the undergraduate business program on the St. George campus. I'm part of the team that helps give out information about the program so people are able to make informed decisions. And I'm also helping to make the admissions decisions, part of that team as well. I've also been at U of T for a long time. I think Anne and Elise are maybe 2 of the few that have been there longer than I have. I'm also a proud alumni of the University of Toronto. I did a graduate degree in something called Comparative International Development Education, which is actually right in line with what I'm doing for my career. So it's been a great time. Happy to answer any questions, and thanks for joining us today.
Excellent. We brought you all the knowledge this morning. So as you can see, and all of our alum. So here we go. We're going to head right into our prepared questions. So our first question for our panelists this morning is, where should parents and families begin their research for programs and universities for their children? Now we are at start here, but I'll allow Jeff to give us a few more pointers for where our parents should start.
So I think the first place to start is with the student. Looking at what the interests are is really important, where they want to go to school, sort of what context. When we talk about U of T, particularly the program that I'm in, do they want to be in a big city? Do they want to be in a smaller center? So those things are important for a starting point. And then once that's determined, where would I be admissible? So where's there a good chance of being admitted into the program? Those are really basic things to talk about. When I'm talking to students one-on-one, I always share with them, I go, the really great thing about university in Canada is you're going to get a good education. So you can go to any school in Canada, get a good education. So you have to find fit for your student. Sometimes students are going to be limited, whether they're going to be able to move away from home or stay with the parents or guardians. So those are all questions that you have to answer. If you're looking at individual schools, there's a wealth of information that's online. So I'm old enough that we didn't have the internet when I was choosing my university, right? We would right away to get brochures and things like that. So it's a really great time to be able to get all the information that you can. We do know from research that students are largely choosing universities based on their peer groups. So talking to people that they know that have gone to university or planning to go to university, there's pros and cons to that as well. But it's a resource that students should take advantage of as well. So lots and lots of research goes into it. I'm really happy when I meet students that are quite certain that where they want to go and what they want to study, and that they're in line for that. But most students are not in that situation. So doing the research, reaching out, coming to events like this, there's lots of things available for students, and probably the breadth of that has increased in this move to online, and always feel to reach out directly to folks like us that are on this panel, because this is what we do. And I don't know if anybody else has anything to add. Doesn't look like it. That means I answered the question. Thanks.
It was an excellent answer, Jeff. Thank you. All right, we'll now get into what are some of the key points in the application process that parents should be aware of? And Anne, I'll have you jump in here.
Great, thanks, Lydia. That was a great response, Jeff. You know, you and I think applied in the same era where we needed paper, and definitely everything is online now. But for people coming in, things to think about are particularly important include timelines. When to start the process. Generally, I would encourage students and families to start investigating sort of universities and opportunities, maybe grade 11. That way you'll know what sort of courses and prerequisites you will need to take to make yourself eligible for admission to a particular program of interest, particularly if you're interested in business or STEM type programs where you'll really need to have the university preparation, math and sciences. So you'll need the grade 11 courses or the junior courses, depending on where you're from, before you can take the senior courses or the grade 12 courses. So referring to the university websites will definitely help you with that. Also, if you have the opportunity to attend open houses, generally institutions offer virtual or in-person open houses in the fall. This allows you the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the program, speak to professors. We often have fairs where you can talk to people from the programs. We offer campus tours, whether virtual or in person. Right now we are virtual, but we're planning to start offering our in-person tours this fall again and welcoming visitors back to our campuses. And of course, we'll do all sorts of information sessions. So students should sort of pay attention to the announcements in their schools, find out when an institution will be offering an information session to your classmates and yourselves, or go to the institutional websites. We run regular webinars every week, so you can always sign up for those as an example. The application will open this week or next week. They generally open late September, early October, and students would be doing this in their senior year. And the deadlines will vary depending on the program that you're applying to or the type of applicant you are. So it could be as early as early November or run all the way into the spring, depending on the institutions. Universities are going to communicate with our applicants via email. So it's really, really important that you read your emails, particularly that first email that you'll get. It's generally an acknowledgement email, just saying that we've received your application. In the case of the University of Toronto, we're going to give our students login information to go to a site called Join U of T. And here they will complete the rest of their application, find out how to submit documents, find out if they have to submit a supplemental form and so forth. And they can monitor the status of their application throughout the application cycle. So all institutions will have this. So it's very, very important that you set your filters to accept institutional emails so you don't miss anything. And I do apologize, we'll probably send more emails than you want, but there's really good nuggets in those emails. Research scholarship and funding opportunities. Most admission scholarships are automatic. They do not require a separate application, but some do. And the deadline for these scholarships may vary depending again on the type of applicant you are, the type of scholarship, and also the institutions. Here at the University of Toronto, we have the National Scholarship, which is available to Canadian students or permanent residents in Canada. And for international students, we have the Lester B. Pearson Scholarship, and both these scholarships are generally full ride, and they do require a separate application and sometimes a nomination. So check with your institution and find out what the scholarship applications and requirements are. It'll be posted on their websites. There's lots of financial aid programs as well. Here in Canada, these are usually funded through the provincial government as well as the federal government. Internationally, you'd have to check with your funding programs. Sometimes funding cannot be transferred to another country. Other times it can, depends on your country. But also institutions will have funding programs. For example, at U of T, we have a great program called UTAPS, University Advanced Planning for Students. And this allows students who are eligible for provincial or government funding, but does not meet their full need to apply for grant funding through the University of Toronto. And this will top it up. And it's a grant, so students do not have to pay it back. So again, those all fall within the senior year, within the cycle of the application, loans, grants. You should check with your institutional website, but usually you'll start applying for these depending on the type of applicant you are in the spring. Decisions are made generally sometimes on a rolling basis or set release dates, anywhere from perhaps December through to June or May, depending on the type of application you are. So if you're an Ontario applicant, you have a deadline date that all universities have in the province of Ontario, so you can wait for that. If you're out of Ontario, you may have a deadline date that's the 1st of May, or depending on when your application was accepted and your offer was made, you could have a couple of weeks after those May or June deadline dates. So deadline dates, checking your emails, doing the research, consulting with your guidance team, and reaching out to the institutions are I think, really good, helpful tips to help you along the way. And I think I'll pass this one over to Elise.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne. That was very thorough. And I believe you've covered most of it in regards to the application process. There should be no more questions now, or we're finished. Now passing it over to Elise. Please speak to some of the co-curricular opportunities that are available to U of T students across our 3 campuses. Thank you, Elise.
Thanks, Lydia. There's lots of things that students can get involved with at the University of Toronto. Not only do we have so many opportunities for our students with all of our programs, we also have a lot of co-curricular opportunities that students can get involved with. And they're a great way to apply what students learn in the class to maybe what it's like in the real world. There's different things students can do, and we have a co-curricular record that students can have alongside their transcript that will sort of monitor or record what they've done on campus outside of the classroom. There is a lot of different things students can get involved with. We offered paid work placements through our co-op programs, through our PEY co-op programs, and through our arts and science internship program. So students can get paid work experience that relates to their degree. They also can do research opportunities. There's research opportunities in all of our disciplines at U of T on all 3 campuses, where students can get real research experience. Sometimes the research opportunities even can do research, sometimes takes them out of the country. We have a lot of formal exchange programs. U of T partners with 140 partner institutions in more than 40 different countries. So there's lots of opportunities if students would like to do a formal exchange. There's also a great number of international experiences where students can do an international pathway. They can do a summer abroad program where they might go with U of T students and a U of T prof, but they might go study somewhere else. Right now, we're not doing those kind of opportunities because of COVID, but hopefully we'll get back to that at some point. There's a lot of international course modules where there's different course modules on international topics that can be put towards students' degrees, and they do them here at University of Toronto. The last thing I sort of want to touch on is we are Canada's largest university, and you can get involved. We have probably just around 1,000 student clubs across all 3 campuses. Our students are very involved in student clubs, in student life. There's 44 different varsity blues athletic teams. And then there's a really, really big, great intramural sports program where students on one campus can compete against each other, or students on different campuses can compete against each other. And we have like 11,000 student athletes who compete each season on things, anything from Frisbee to rugby. So there's lots of things that students can get involved with. And not only does the University of Toronto offer a great academic experience, it also offers a great student experience.
Excellent. Thank you, Elise. All right. So, Anne, we know that this has been an interesting year, and I think every fall the return to campus may look slightly different, but I think this year is extremely unique. What has that return to campus been like for U of T students?
Yes, we're first of all very delighted that the campuses are opening and our students are coming back this fall. All the campuses are very vibrant. I was on campus the other day and it was just so wonderful to see the students back. So depending on the institution, the return to campus will be different. For example, at the University of Toronto, everyone coming to campus is required to be vaccinated to ensure the safety of our folks on campus and our students. There's all sorts of safety protocols put in place following public health guidelines, such as masking and so forth. Course delivery will vary by institution, and here at U of T, it varies by faculty. Some of our faculties will be offering in-class, in-person opportunities. Our students will be back in class, while others will be completely virtual. They'll be completing their courses online for the fall semester, while some will be a bit of a hybrid, where they'll be offering some in-person and some virtual. For students who were delayed, for example, to get to Canada or quarantine, many of our faculties will be offering virtual options for the first few weeks of the school year to ensure that those students are accommodated. We want to, as I say, make sure that our students are safe, that they have the opportunity to meet with professors. So our professors are certainly available. Office hours are open, and the professors are even commenting that during the lockdown last year, they had virtual office hours and they actually saw more students than they usually do in an in-person period. So that's very, very encouraging. Students are certainly reaching out to our professors. So we're hoping that we'll continue to move forwards, things will improve, and we'll have everything totally in person, hopefully in the January session.
Fantastic. It is lovely to know that campus is starting to bustle again. So very exciting. And now we get to our last prepared question. So Elise, can you please speak to the importance and function of each of the following offices, as they are all an integral part to a student's transition and success at the University of Toronto. So if you could just speak to a bit about each of these offices, it would really be great to provide parents with some names of offices and staff that they can reach out to. Well, their student can reach out to.
Yes, yeah. Thanks, Lydia. Yeah, so every university has offices like these, or they might be slightly named differently, but at U of T, across all of our campuses, all of our divisions, we have the registrar's office is the office where a student can go or contact when they're registering for courses, if they have questions about paying their fees. Financial aid, scholarships, and awards are managed through the registrar's office. Exams, graduation, T-card information, anything like that that a student needs, they would go to their faculty or department registrar's office to get that information. So that all of these student services and these offices, it's important for students to really figure out what they are, read about what they do, so that they know what to do and where to go when they are making that transition from high school to university. Accessibility services it's a student service and it's an academic service, and its principal function is to ensure that policies, practices, procedures, and programs are exclusive, to remove barriers, and ensure equal access for students with disabilities. So students with mental health conditions, ADHD, ASD, learning disabilities, chronic health conditions, concussions, head injuries, sensory disabilities, physical, mobility disabilities, they can register with our accessibility services. If your child has a IEP right now in high school, I strongly suggest once you know which university your child is going to go to, that you contact accessibility services and you start to that registration process and you start to get things in place, right, once they've accepted their offer, so that by the time September comes, they'll be all set up and ready to go for their classes. Health and wellness, all 3 campuses have health and wellness services for our students, and there are doctors, counselors, nurses. They are there available for our students for any need they need, whether it be medical, whether it be counseling. And they also do a lot of health promotion and health education workshops and stuff as well. So it's a great resource for our students. The Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office, it's a central resource for all of our community members. So whether it's a student, staff, or faculty, the office has education programs, it has engagement initiatives, and they're all related to equity, access, discrimination, and harassment, anything like that. This office really does consultations, resources, training, educational program, and their events promote inclusion and contribute to the sense of belonging for all of our communities at U of T. There's also sexual and gender diversity, range of opportunities for students both inside and outside the classroom. So there's those opportunities as well. The last one I'll just touch on is academic advising. This service for our students, it provides academic and learning strategies, strategists, and they're there to help the students with their academic plan to succeed academically. There's usually study coaching skills. There's all kinds of things they can plan their degree. I know even when they're planning their courses and going to graduate school, they'll help them with, grad applications and essays and that sort of thing. They'll help them throughout their academic career as well. Students can make one-on-one appointments with a learning strategist or an academic advisor. Or there's lots of study groups and groups like the Writing Center, the Math Center. There's a lot of groups that students can get involved with and have help. These academic advising offices, we have them on all campuses, and then we have them within departments as well. So they can be specific to what you're studying and give you give students real strategies in order to succeed. So I'll stop there. There's a lot more services at the university that you can access. There's so many, but these are the key ones that we want students to really research and know about before they come in and make that transition. Thanks, Lydia.
That was excellent, Elise. I feel like I gave you the toughest question of the bunch, but you aced it. So thank you very much for that. We'll now jump into Q&A. And Jeff has been far too quiet for the bulk of this panel. So the first question is going to go to Jeff. We have an excellent question that's been upvoted nearly 30 times. And this person would like to know, what is the interview process like for applying? Does U of T have an interview process in their supplementary applications?
Sure. For the vast majority of programs, it's just the grades that they're going to be looking at. There's no sort of additional supplemental application, but there are some programs, the one that I work at included, that do require supplemental application. And students will know this in their research. And also after they apply, it'll be something they access through their application portal that's called Join U of T. So some are essays, some are a combination of essays and videos. They're not particularly taxing in terms of the time that it takes to submit them. So what we tell students applying to our program is set an hour aside, and that should be sufficient to make that submission. So again, do a little bit of research, see if it's required. Again, most of the programs do not require something a little bit extra. What we're looking for specifically is an understanding of leadership, community, ability to convey that to an admissions committee, understanding of business. Obviously, if you're applying to another program, they don't care so much about your interest in business. And how it's looked at really is these programs that require extra applications, they're quite competitive in terms of the grades. So they're programs that admit at a very narrow band at the top. So they're really looking for students that are going to add to the program in terms of being a good fit. A rule of thumb really is the higher your grades are, the more likely you'll get an offer of admission. Where that supplemental or the extra application can make a difference is sort of on the margins on each end. So for example, if the grades are, and I've seen this happen, if the grades are very high, again, there's a high likelihood of admission, but if the supplemental is terrible, it's a possibility of not getting an offer. There's no guarantee of admission. And conversely, if you're down at the bottom of the cutoff, but you have this amazing experience outside the classroom, that might bump you up into somebody that the university wants to admit. So those are a couple of things. Another way I explain it to students is what we don't want to see, and that's somebody who only studies. You know, everybody who comes into our program, we say everybody's smart. If you're sitting down with corporate partners and they're asking you what you do, and you just say that you study, well, that's what everybody does. You know, what else are you doing? Now, in terms of what that engagement outside the classroom is, I think there's an awful lot of freedom for students. We just want to see something. Again, you know, it could be jobs, it can be music, it can be sports, it could be helping with the family, could be starting businesses for someone, you know, applying to a business program. It'd be lots and lots of different things. Part of what we're also recruiting for is diversity of experience. So just as long as you're, you know, doing something, the student's doing something. Other thing I say to students when I meet them in person is, well, if you're not doing anything, like how interesting do you think you're going to be? How useful or helpful you're going to be to your classmates if you're not able to draw experience other than studying? So do things that you're interested in, or your students, your you know, your children, or, you know, if you're a guardian, just make sure, you know, that they should be doing something they, you know, it can lead them down to career paths that they don't even really realize exist. Anybody else want to add anything? I think that covered it. Great. Thanks, Lydia.
Thank you, Jeff. Next question is, what are the dorm rooms like, and what is the food like within accommodations? And I will pass that one to you.
Thanks, Lydia. So here at U of T, on our 3 campuses, the campuses are all self-contained. So each campus provides residence and food services for the students on their campuses. The type of residences and dorms will vary. On the St. George campus, for example, students in the Faculty of Arts and Science will generally be living in residence of the college that they're a member of, and sometimes students in the other faculties will also be living in one of the college residences or the standalone residence, the Chestnut residence. At our Scarborough, Mississauga campus, they have their own residences. At our Scarborough campuses, we have townhouses and apartment style residence. They are building a new residence, which will be a traditional dorm style. And at our Mississauga campus, we have a mix of apartment and townhouses, as well as dorm style residences. And of course, all those on the St. George campus. So the student, if they're living in a residence that is dorm, they generally have the opportunity to opt into a meal plan. These dorms can be single-sex floors, they can be mixed-gender floors, they can be single rooms, double rooms. The meal plans can vary depending on the residence, can be all you can eat type meal plan or select number of meals during the week. Generally, students who are living in the suite style apartment townhouses, there is not a meal plan. They do come with equipped kitchens and living spaces, but students can do their own cooking, but they can also opt into various types of meal plans on each campus. Whether it's a declining balance plan or a full meal plan at one of the residence halls or dining halls. The food is generally good. There's all sorts of variety of food. There's lots of different food services. We accommodate different diets or food restrictions. You can just let us know, the applicant can let us know through their residence application if they have a dietary concern or an allergy, and we'll do our best to accommodate that. And of course, being in the city of Toronto, in the greater Toronto area, there's amazing restaurants and food all around our campuses. So if you want a late night bite, want to try some of our international cuisine, the world is literally your oyster here in Toronto. Lots of food available, lots of different styles, both on and off campus.
Excellent, thank you, Anne. Next question is, will the ranking of program choices on the OUAC affect my chances of acceptance? So I will probably pass that one over to, I'll pass that to you, Anne. Seeing as you're already unmuted, I'll let you just jump in there.
Sure. So generally, no. On the OUAC application, the ranking does not come into play for most of our programs. So it doesn't matter if you rank as first or third. We like you to rank as first, but it's up to you. For the Faculty of Engineering, they do pay a little bit of attention to that when they're coming down to filling their final spaces. It's a very competitive program. So they generally like to see that if you want U of T engineering, they like to see you ranking it their first choice. It's definitely not, a door is closed if you don't rank it first choice, but they do like to see it's an indication of the seriousness of the applicant in their particular program. And that is the same regardless of whether you're an Ontario applicant or an out of province applicant.
Excellent. So we have a question here about financial aid and scholarships. Could you tell us a little bit more about them, Elise?
Sure. So as far as scholarships go, there are many scholarships at the University of Toronto. When you apply, you will be automatically considered for scholarships based on your marks. So there are scholarships available to all of our students who apply, and we will look and see if you are based on your academics, whether you qualify for a scholarship or not, and you'll be notified of that scholarship when you get your admission letter. There are also scholarships and awards that you can apply for, and they look at marks as well as leadership, extracurricular activities, and sometimes they look at financial need as well. So those kind of scholarships are great to apply for on our awards profile. And when you apply to U of T, you will get access to something called the Join U of T portal. And on that Join U of T portal, there is a spot where you can go to the awards profile and students can fill that out and be considered for the awards there. There are some other awards that do have application process, like our national scholarship program. That one, if you are in your grade 12 year, you want to look at that because the deadline is usually in October. It's quite early. I always, if you're a younger student, I say grade 11, start looking at that. But if you're in grade 12, you can look that up and see if you want to apply to our national scholarship program. There's also international scholarships for our international students. There is the Pearson Scholarship that schools and students from international countries can apply for. So there's lots of different information. I think my colleague Jenny will probably put the link for our scholarships and awards page, and you can look on that and see if there's any that you would like to apply for. And then for financial aid, as Anne was talking about, if you qualify for provincial funding, so OSAP or from any of the other Canadian provinces, and OSAP doesn't provide enough funding and there is financial need, then there is our UTAPS program, which is a U of T program that will top students up with grants if there is not enough money from the OSAP. Also from students from other countries, they sometimes bring their student funding from their country to U of T. Does anyone have anything to add for that, Jeff?
Yeah, just to add a little bit about the awards profile. The vast majority of students that are eligible to complete the awards profile do not. So they're really leaving themselves out of the mix in terms of scholarships that are available to them. So really encourage the students to submit their awards profile, again, through the application portal, Join U of T. It is for Canadian citizens, permanent residents that are attending Canadian high school. But lots and lots of students don't do it. And so they're not eligible for some of the other scholarships. So just remind them.
And just before we jump into the next question, to sort of pick up on where Jeff and Elise have left off, one thing I try to remind parents of as well is that the scholarship timeline is the same as the application timeline. So often we'll get students who, once they've received their offer, they're like, then they start looking for scholarships. Like, okay, I'm admitted. What scholarships does the university have available? And I'm like, a little too late. Our deadline for the awards profile is February 1st. So when you're submitting that application and you're submitting that early in the fall, the next thing you need to be thinking about right away is, okay, I got to get onto my awards profile and start thinking about my scholarships. Don't leave it until the spring when you've been admitted. It happens around the same time as that application deadline. So just keep that in mind. So we have a question here, and I'm going to try to pull it apart so that hopefully we can get to an answer. So there's a few questions embedded in one. In terms of criteria, what is the weighting considered against academics versus extracurriculars? And I think, Jeff, I'll pass this to you because you kind of touched on this with the example before, but they want to know particularly around computer science and double degree courses. Are the academic scores and marks considered in full or a certain percentage of marks considered? So again, if you could just speak to that weightage that you spoke to earlier, I think that will help to answer the question.
Sure, it's really a holistic view in terms of admissions. What we tell students is you need to have both, right? You need to have engagement outside the classroom. You need high grades. There's not a specific formula, but the higher the grades, the more likely there'll be an offer of admission, but it's not a guarantee of admission. So having both, I think, is the best way to describe it. And don't be obsessed over some sort of weighting formula that doesn't necessarily exist. We are trying to find the best fit for both of us, right? For the student to be able to succeed in the program, and then for us to do well as a program. Another way to say the same thing, and sort of often a bit of a tangent, is how we measure our success as student success. So we're admitting students into programs where we believe they will be successful.
Excellent. So this is a great question. Going from high school to university is a big transition. What can we do to help make a smooth transition for our kids, and how can our kids transition smoothly as well? I will pass that over to Elise because I feel like you were touching on that in that last question.
Sure.
So if you could sort of touch pieces again.
So for the transition from high school to university, I think there's, the students are more on their own once they get to university than they were in high school. So that initiative and the time management skills and that kind of thing. If the students have that already, then sometimes their transition can be a little bit easier, not necessarily always, but so they really have to think about things beforehand. They have to read things. There's a lot of instructions and there's a lot of things that the university gives students. And the information is there, but sometimes some students aren't figuring out where to go. So as I said, when I described those key student services, if the student really understands what each of those services does and where they have to go to find out information, that's really great. All of our faculties and campuses, once a student is admitted in June, July, we all have what we call transitional programs or programs that help students to start to think about the process of picking their courses and all that. There's modules that students can look at and really bring them from that transition of what are their next steps and what do they do next. Because I think that between the time they get admitted and the time they come to university, there's a lot of steps that have to go in, and the terminology is different, and they don't know how things work because it is different than high school. And so trying to navigate that system of trying to see when things need to get done and how you do them, it's really, really key to go to those welcome sessions or transition sessions, because the different divisions and the different faculties at U of T will really bring students through that process. And, you know, as a parent, being supportive to the student and sort of helping them and guiding them, but letting them do things on their own to figure out those things. It's a transition for us too, as parents, to try to let go of that student, not do everything for them, but get them into that, going into adulthood and starting to figure out things on their own, but with our support. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that.
I think that was perfect and very honest, because it's true. It's a bit of a handoff once you get to first year. And I know that we are down to our last minute, but I do know that Darshan's question has been upvoted and we do want to get to that one. And I'll have you jump in here. What, if any, impact has the quadmester high school system had on the admission process, in particular early admission?
No, that's a great question. Happy to answer it. Here at U of T, when we are considering admission and we have the early consideration time, basing most of our decisions are going to be based on grade 11 grades. So we are going to look at the grade 11 results. We're going to ensure that the student is in the appropriate grade 12 courses that are required for their program. So early in the earlier rounds of decisions, it's primarily grade 11s and any completed grade 12 courses that the student has. And then in the later rounds, we will have more information from the senior year. So we may have the first semester results or the first quadmester, you know, second quadmester, and so forth. For students who are taking a prerequisite course in the final quad, we will pay particular attention to the grade 11 course that they completed the year before. So we'll want to make sure that the student is enrolled. Should they be admitted, their offer will be conditional upon, you know, satisfying the requirements of their high school diploma and perhaps maintaining a certain grade average in a specific course or an overall average. So we do put a lot of weight in the early stages for the grade 11s. So as I said, if the student isn't quite where we want them to be with the grade 11 grades, we will wait for more information for the grade 12s. And we'll want to make sure that students are enrolled in the appropriate prerequisite courses, even if it's in the fourth quad.
Excellent. So that does bring us to the end of our parent panel. And I know that there were a lot of